Oh, hey, didn't see you there. My name is Tobi the Great, and I know it's been a while, but I'm back from my hiatus to give you a fresh new update for Apples and Asteroids. Let's start with the apples, the most important item in the game because you need these to increase your score. Here I have this apple generation script where every few seconds a new apple is generated. However, there's only a maximum of 3 apples to be on the playing field at a time. So that means that if you haven't seen any apples in your immediate vicinity, it forces the player to go around the entire field dodging the asteroids to look for the apples that they haven't found yet. And of course, where these apples spawn is restricted to the playing field, so there's no apples that are in unreachable spots. Originally in the last video, you see apples are spawned in the same vertical position every time, no matter where they are on the x-axis. But I wanted jumping to be a bigger aspect of this game, and I also wanted to force you into tough spots where you have asteroids coming at you from different directions, and also apples that are in unreachable positions that you can't just run by. You know, of course, to make the game more dynamic and tough and all that. So collecting apples is important not only for increasing your score, but also increasing the game's difficulty. And now let's get back to talking about the asteroids. The main obstacles in the game. Before in the last video, we only had them coming from one direction at one speed. But a lot has changed with these asteroids. The first step I did was adding some variability by having asteroids spawn from either the left side or the right side. Having them spawn from either the left side or the right side was pretty cool, but I thought it was pretty predictable, and after a while maybe the player could figure it out and it wouldn't be as interesting. So I also had some asteroids falling from the top of the stage, and I think all those changes together add for a really exciting experience where you're basically dodging asteroids from all types of directions. But that's not enough for a gamer that gets really good at this game and realizes that the asteroids are generated at specific time intervals. Here I implemented a pretty basic level design where every 10 apples you collect increases the difficulty of the game and changes some variables such as asteroid speed, asteroid generation time. So the end result is a pretty dynamic game that starts off relatively easy but quickly gets harder. And if you didn't notice, the sound effects that you hear when you collect an apple, as well as all the other music in the game, is done by my very good friend Rami L Music. So all his stuff will be down in the description. So thanks again, Rami, for this. So for all my aspiring game developers that have questions about certain features that you see in video games and you just wish a YouTuber would walk you through the things they did and why they did it, I'm doing you a favor with this one. I'm gonna walk you through my player controller script file, which basically has all the functions that involve our player. I think the best way to go about this is starting from top to bottom and giving you kind of the reasoning behind all the decisions that I make and why. This is gonna be pretty brief, but I'm gonna kind of give you an overview and highlight specific points that I use to make this game. So starting from the top, we have the movement speed, and this is for both running and jumping for the player. And I changed this a bunch during testing because when you add new features or I change stuff like the asteroid speed or the apple generation file, like sometimes to make the game like more fun or just to make it better, it turns out that I have to adjust some variables. And I have some movement settings, and these are a bit more complicated. This is just kind of like for the jumping mechanism that I have in place. I want to make it so that it's realistic, like in terms of how someone would jump. Like when you jump, like gravity should pull you down more the more you're falling. And yeah, this is still some more jump velocity variables that I have here. I might not be using all these, or I might be editing them. A lot of times, like I'll make some temporary variables while I'm coding and take them in or take them out as is. And public rigid body, this is kind of what gives our player physics in terms of being able to interact with gravity and stuff. Unity has this rigid body class that does that. The sprite renderer, that's our player sprite. The animator variable is what allows our player to have different kinds of animation. So when we have Q-Boy running back and forth, and we have the animation of his legs moving back and forth, it's the animator class that allows us to have that functionality. And I'm gonna skip these for now because this is some additional variables that I have for the mobile version, where you'll have like an actual UI joystick that's moving around. But I'm just showing you the desktop version of this game, but I'm also working on the mobile version at the same time. And here I want to talk about this functionality right here. You know, when you're playing games and you get hit by something, like if you're playing Mario, you get hit by a Goomba, you don't take damage immediately. You kind of have this kind of invincibility period where for like 2-3 seconds you can't be hit. I wanted to implement that in this game too, especially because it gets harder on the higher levels with asteroids coming at you from different directions. I don't want to punish you twice for making a bad move and getting hurt once. So I'm actually going to skip to that down here for now, and I'm going to highlight that specific feature. How I implement it is, if you think about how like we want it to work, when you get hit by an asteroid, that's when you want this effect to take place, and you want it to last for, here I have it set to 3 seconds. So if we go down here on trigger enter, this, if you read the description, on trigger enter is called when the collider 2D enters the trigger. In human terms, that just means that whenever our player interacts with the asteroid, basically when the asteroid hits you, what I want to hear is, this line means that if we're not invincible right now, we're going to destroy the asteroid. We're going to decrement our health by 1. We're going to start our blinking effect, which is our invincibility. And we're going to play the sound effects of the asteroid being hit. Shout out to Ramiel Music again for that. And I'm going to go up here to where we have this sprite blinking effect. And to sort of summarize what's going on here, we're just going to increment the total time that we have. And to sort of summarize what's going on here is basically, for as long as the duration is set, we're going to keep flipping our sprite to be enabled to true and false, which sort of makes it disappear. And then if you do it really quickly over a short period of time, it's like flickering. So it kind of simulates that blinking effect. So let me go back up here. If there's something else I want to highlight, a lot of things it's tough to really focus on in this course of one video, but I really want to add more detail to development that sometimes some YouTubers or some developers don't really go into, and you might be curious about it. This is like our project. This is a Tobi the Great channel video game, and I'm sharing it with all of you, so I want you to all be a part of the process. So if you have any kinds of questions about decisions that I make or anything, please feel free to let me know in the comments. And this is where that intersection between a software developer and a video game developer really stand out. Here I have a game, have a bunch of classes and methods and different variables that create this end product of a game that has a lot of dynamic factors. But as a video game designer, now I have to think about, how do I make this fun? How do I make this replayable? How do I make this game have randomness, but also give players that are good a decent shot of getting a high score? How to make this game challenging for good players, but also light for casual players? Now I want to make this clear. This game, version 1 of Apples and Asteroids, is done. Now that we have a almost fully fledged game, I'm pretty hype about it. I'm planning on streaming it sometime over the next few weeks until it's released. There's a few additions that I'm going to consider for future updates, but for now, my focus is just getting this game shipped and released as soon as possible. I said this back in April or May when I made the first video for this game, that I wanted to make a quick game that I could, one, just release and let you all play, and at the same time, iterate on it and make it a much better game. And I think Apples and Asteroids turns out to be the perfect result of that motivation, because I want y'all to play it and tell me what you think, and any kind of feedback, criticism, comments about anything, please don't hesitate to leave a comment again down below, especially if you want me to go over more code or you just want to see more gameplay. Matter of fact, speaking of gameplay, I'm going to end this video off with me just playing and seeing how high of a high score I can get. Don't hesitate to like this video and press that subscribe button on the bottom right. Thanks. Okay, so I was playing for a little bit and then my fingers got tired, man. I can get a much better high score than this, I promise you.